The cabin stood at the edge of Black Hollow Lake, its wooden exterior weathered from decades of harsh winters and humid summers. The lake itself was vast and eerily still, its surface like a mirror reflecting the storm-heavy sky. For years, it had been a place of whispered legends. Locals spoke of the drowned town that once lay beneath its depths, an entire settlement swallowed when the valley was intentionally flooded to create the reservoir. But none of that mattered to the 5 friends who had come here for a weekend escape. Dylan, Jenna, Marcus, Eric, and Claire had been friends since college. Their bond forged over late-night study sessions, bad dorm food, and too many regrettable parties. Now, in their mid-20s, life was pulling them in different directions. This trip was supposed to be one last hurrah before responsibility weighed them down for good. "God, this place is perfect," Marcus said, dropping his bag on the creaky wooden porch. No cell service, no work emails, just beer, nature, and absolutely no one around. "I don't know, man," Eric muttered, peering out at the lake. "It's kind of creepy." Jenna laughed. "You're just scared of the ghost stories." Eric frowned. "You guys didn't hear what the guy at the gas station said? He told me, stay out of the water at night. Said it like a warning." Claire rolled her eyes. "Come on, you really believe that?" Eric shrugged but didn't respond. Instead, he cast another glance at the water, where the reflection of the fading sun shimmered like molten metal. That night, after a day of drinking, hiking, and reminiscing, Dylan, always the reckless one, made a suggestion. "Skinny dipping," he announced, already pulling his shirt off. "Who's in?" Claire and Marcus cheered, Jenna hesitated but grinned, and even Eric, after some coaxing, agreed. They ran toward the dock, laughing as they peeled away their clothes and plunged into the cold water. It was exhilarating, freezing and invigorating all at once. The lake stretched into the darkness, its depths unknown, its history forgotten. Only Dylan swam further out. "Come back, man," Eric called. "You're way too far." Dylan turned, treading water, a smirk on his lips. "What, you scared?" Then he vanished beneath the surface. The laughter died, a beat of silence. Then Jenna screamed, "Dylan!" He didn't come up. They swam toward where he had been, their panic growing. Seconds stretched into eternity, before finally Dylan resurfaced, coughing and gasping for breath. "Jesus, man," Marcus said, grabbing his arm. "What the hell happened?" Dylan just blinked at them, water streaming down his face. His skin looked paler, almost grayish, his lips slightly blue. His eyes, they seemed darker somehow, like the pupils had expanded too much. "You okay?" Claire asked hesitantly. Dylan nodded slowly. "Yeah, I'm fine." But something about his voice was off, like an echo beneath his words, a distortion that sent a chill through Eric's spine. They climbed out of the lake, shivering, as they pulled on their clothes. Dylan didn't shiver at all. Over the next 24 hours, they noticed changes in Dylan. He barely spoke, staring out at the lake with an intensity that unsettled the others. His skin remained ice-cold to the touch, no matter how much time he spent near the fireplace. And when he did speak, his voice carried that same strange reverberation, as though someone or something else was speaking with him. That night, Jenna woke up to the sound of whispers. At first, she thought it was the wind, but as she strained to listen, she realized it was coming from outside the cabin. She crept to the window, her breath fogging up the glass, and saw Dylan standing at the shore, ankle-deep in the black water. His head was tilted upward, as if listening to something only he could hear. Then, ever so slowly, he turned and looked directly at her. Jenna gasped and stumbled back. A second later, Dylan was knocking at the door, his voice eerily calm. "Why are you awake?" he asked when she hesitated to let him in. I heard something," she whispered. Dylan just stared, unblinking. Then he smiled, a thin, empty smile, and walked past her to his room without another word. Jenna didn't sleep the rest of the night. By the following evening, things had escalated. Marcus tried to joke about Dylan's weird behavior, but no one laughed. Eric confronted him directly, demanding to know what was wrong. Dylan only said, "The lake is calling." That night, Eric locked his door. In the early morning hours, the screaming began. Eric jolted awake to a blood-curdling shriek. He grabbed his flashlight and ran into the hall, nearly colliding with Jenna and Claire. "It's Marcus," Claire sobbed. "He's gone." They found his bed empty, the sheets tangled as if he'd thrashed violently before vanishing. The front door was wide open, letting in the icy night air. Outside, footprints led from the cabin to the lake, but not back, and standing at the edge of the dock was Dylan, staring down into the water. "Where is he?" Eric shouted, grabbing Dylan by the shoulders. Dylan turned, smiling that same vacant smile. "He went home," Jenna sobbed. "Home? What the hell does that mean?" Dylan's expression didn't change. "The town, beneath the lake." Eric recoiled, his grip loosening. "What? What are you talking about?" Dylan's pupils were now pitch black, swallowing his irises completely. He stepped forward, and for the first time, Eric noticed his feet weren't touching the ground. "The lake takes what belongs to it," Dylan said, his voice echoing in layers, like multiple voices speaking at once. "It was never meant to be disturbed." Jenna yanked Eric's arm. "Run!" They fled into the woods, their breath ragged, Claire sobbing uncontrollably. Behind them, they could hear Dylan calling, his voice stretching and warping into something inhuman. "The lake takes what belongs to it." By morning, they made it to the nearest town, a 2-hour drive from where they had stayed. They told the authorities about Marcus, about Dylan, about everything. The police searched the lake. They found no cabin, no belongings, no sign that anyone had ever been there. And yet, the sheriff only nodded grimly. "This ain't the first time," he murmured, "and it won't be the last." That night, in their motel room, Jenna turned on the bathroom faucet. For a split second, the water ran black, and in the mirror, just behind her reflection, she saw a glimpse of something watching, something waiting. The lake takes what belongs to it, and it wasn't finished yet.